The following is a special presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.
Set up some kind of trial workout. Get me down here to see what's going on.
Did you see the stats? Stats don't mean anything if he doesn't fit in our system.
That's true.
We need speed. I think we need a face. We need a leader.
We all need to work together on this. We seem to be going off in different directions.
Listen up.
There's no room in this game for error. One call can either make or break a franchise. The pressure to meet expectations can beat you down. Look who's out there. They all have speed. They all have power. But what else do they have? Your eyes and ears are everywhere.
Strong finish.
Listening.
4-2-8.
Watching.
I can do better.
Studying.
The jury's still out. This kid's got to show me something.
But he does have raw talent.
That's got to count for something.
There will be questions.
Hold on.
Issues.
There may be a trade.
Differences of opinion.
If we don't get this guy, the next team will.
Media distractions.
Why isn't that next quarterback Jamarcus Russell?
As the pressure builds, the stakes get higher. The calls pour in.
Stand by, transfer.
No. Call me back when you got something good.
Fatigue sets in.
Hit it.
If you slip, you're beat. If you're beat, you're done. That's how it works in the NFL. You need to look at yourself in the mirror. Know you've left it on the field and done all you can. Finally, it comes down to your turn.
We've got one shot to get him.
Is it integrity, heart, courage, leadership, dedication? Here's your shot.
Listen up. We're on the clock.
Now, make the call.
Welcome to the 2007 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
For 3/4 of a century, Radio City Music Hall has been the home of so much entertainment, top-line entertainment. Well, this weekend in the National Football League, you don't get any more top-line than this. The fans have been ready since dawn. Not only fans of the New York or the local teams, but from all the 32 teams, because it is their chance to weigh in and see how their team is going to help themselves when they take the field this September. Inside Radio City for the second year, this is the 2007 NFL Draft, or as they say in verbiage befitting a court, the annual selection meeting of the National Football League for the 72nd time. Started with Jay Berwanger back in the 30s, who will be the #1 pick today. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Berman, so glad to be with us. Once again, ESPN gavel-to-gavel coverage. With us here in New York, the Hall of Fame quarterback and our compatriot on Sundays. Now Mondays is Steve Young. You kind of dipped to the other league first, so you missed this. We wanted you to have a chance.
I know, and that was my first opportunity to be the first draft choice. I hope I heard my name called.
Well, we'll see. We have connections with the commissioner. We will see. Of course, as we said before, Christmas, New Year's Eve, Easter, you name the holiday, it's his holiday. Bill Kuiper with us for the 24th year. Welcome again.
Good to be here, Boom.
And with us to provide some levity, if not brevity, to all the situations around the league is Chris Mortensen, the insider.
Let's buckle up for some surprises here, Boomer.
I think we're going to buckle up for safety. It's the law now, you know, so you better make sure. Now, once upon a time in 1996, the New York Football Jets had Keyshawn Johnson, young man from USC, as the #1 pick overall. 800 catches later, more than 10,000 yards later, going to his 12th season in the league, this time with Carolina. Keyshawn, you're back. It wasn't here, but welcome. And what do you remember of that day?
It was exciting. It was obviously exciting for me and my family. We had all these things going. We had plenty of friends around, and it was crazy.
pre-draft before that, the night before, was even crazier. So, you know, I feel like I'm getting ready to get drafted again, except I got a few boos when you announce me.
Well, there'll only be, it is a receiver. You're one of two. You and Irving Fryer have only been a couple of them, so you certainly will be able to give us perspective. And speaking of receivers, if it was just a grade, Mel Kiper, would you have Calvin Johnson, Georgia Tech, #1?
Definitively, boom, #1. Calvin Johnson, the consensus overall #1 pick in this draft on teams' boards. Look at that size, 6'5", 240 pounds at 4'3", 540. Turns some heads in that 42 vertical. He should be a uncoverable wide receiver in the NFL. I think you look at a guy like that, and he could be special immediately.
And there in the green room is Jamarcus Russell, the big, and I mean big quarterback from LSU. Will he be the one tabbed by the Oakland Raiders? Where do you have him, Mel? 4th
overall on the big board. And I think when you look at Jamarcus Russell, he's a quarterback, and that's what Oakland needs. That's why he's going to be the #1 pick, and he has to be the #1 pick. Very rarely in the history of the NFL have you seen a kid with the kind of rocket arm he has on a 6'5½", 260-pound frame.
The other quarterback to be tabbed very high in this draft, the much decorated young man from Notre Dame, that would be Brady Quinn.
Yeah, you look at Brady Quinn, you think, okay, he dropped below Russell, and of course the Sugar Bowl performance of Jamarcus Russell helped him. Brady Quinn didn't have the guys around him that Russell did. You look at his completion percentage, dropped a little bit, but he didn't have Anthony Fasano, didn't have Maurice Stovall. Still, though, Boom, over the last 2 years, 69 touchdown passes and 14 picks. That speaks volumes. The key, though, is Cleveland. If they pass on Brady Quinn, 7 Minnesota, 9 Miami, they'd be able to find a heck of a pick at that point.
Well, you've helped us identify some of the main characters as the play. The curtain is about to go up here on the 2007 NFL Draft. We'll open it up with the Commissioner, Roger Goodell, when we return to New York City.
I'm Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus Russell, touchdown LSU.
I'm Brady Quinn.
He's going in. Notre Dame has scored.
I'm Alan Branch.
Alan Branch came back.
I'm Paul Posluszny.
Posluszny's got him.
I'm Troy Smith.
Mr. Throw.
Caught, touchdown.
Joe D'Amico. I have more than 20 years experience of keeping cars running longer and in good condition. Here's another tip that can help you. These are brake pads, and they're a key component to making your car come to a stop. Checking your brake pads every 8,000 miles prevents unwanted damage and is important in keeping everyone safe. This sound is a warning. You need to get your brakes checked right away. Bring your car to the pros at Jackson Auto. We'll save you money, and if you find a better deal, we'll match it. It's that simple. We're the certified technicians at Jackson Auto Group.
Straight talk. Great deals. When it comes to choosing a career, consider the laborers and union contractors. When you think of the laborers, think construction, healthcare, landscaping, environmental services, and much more. With the time-honored practice of apprenticeship, you'll be trained in starting a dynamic new career as a laborer. The laborers, with its great benefits of employment security and training opportunities, will provide you valued skills. You can have a secure career in the construction industry. The laborers are now recruiting and training statewide.
Back in New York, the scene is set for this, the 72nd NFL Draft, Radio City Music Hall. Well, the fans in the upper tiers, the upper balconies, the lower balconies, all waiting to see. That's a historic day. The Commissioner.
Good afternoon. All right, NFL fans, this is the time we have all been waiting for. The 2007 NFL Draft is now open. Each team has 15 minutes in the first round. The Oakland Raiders are now on the clock.
And so Commissioner Roger Goodell essentially opening the 2007 season, if you will. The Oakland Raiders closed it not in dramatic fashion. The Raiders earned that first pick the old-fashioned way. They were Raiders of the Lost Ark. They earned it. They were 2-14, and so after 1 year as head coach, the Hall of Famer Art Shell out, Lane Kiffin, 31 years young, and Keyshawn New from USC as he helped coordinate that offense under Pete Carroll. He's the coach. They got 12 offensive touchdowns last year. The Raiders, who score so many points, only scored 168 last year. And current quarterbacks with the experiment of Aaron Brooks not working, Andrew Walter, Josh Booty. That would be who's under center for the 32nd ranked offense, the low-scoring offense. And so the Raiders now have 15 minutes to decide what will we do to start to improve the offense. Let's head out west, where it's 9 a.m. Still time for breakfast. Ed Werder is at Raiders headquarters. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Boomer. The Raiders are the only team in the NFL in the last 10 years that haven't used a first-round pick on a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end. That streak will almost certainly end today. It appears the Raiders have wide receiver Calvin Johnson as the #1 player on their draft board, but after Al Davis, in firing Art Shell last year, accused him of making a mistake that he now has to fix in talking him out of drafting Matt Leinart #1 last year, people here tell me that they can't imagine if the Raiders hold on to the #1 pick that they wouldn't take Jamarcus Russell, the LSU quarterback. The hedge, Boomer, is they have multiple trade discussions underway at the moment as they're on the clock with a number of teams, including the Cleveland Browns at #3, and that's because the Raiders coaching staff would be willing to take Brady Quinn and make him the centerpiece of the rebuilding job here.
Well, all right, Ed, we will see what happens. We should just put this out there. It didn't happen last year, of course. Mario Williams went, but 7 of the last 9 first overall picks dating back fittingly to 98, Peyton Manning, have been quarterbacks. Will this be 8 of 10? Is it Russell? What's going on in the green room? You figured the players would have some idea. Susie Culber is working the green room. What do you know down there, Susie?
Well, Chris, I would say that this is unprecedented. I spoke to every agent that's in this room. It remains a mystery. I'll attribute that to Al Davis controlling the draft right now. The only agent that seems to have some comfort level right now, Jamarcus Russell's agent, although he told me that still is not completely certain.
Wow. Well, even for Al Davis, Mort, this is uncharted territories. The Raiders had the #1 overall pick in 1962. They drafted Roman Gabriel, by the way, who went on to play with the LA Rams. Al Davis became part of the Raiders and the Raiders starting in 1963. So even for Al, this is uncharted. Where is he sailing?
Well, it is Al Davis. It's great that the Raiders have the #1 pick because, yes, he's had Ken Stabler and the Jim Plunkett's and Darryl Lamonicas and the Rich Gannons and what have you, but he's also loved great novel athletes like the Bo Jacksons or Tim Brown and Randy Moss and what have you. And so Al Davis and the Raiders are capable of deception, capable of mystique. I think we're getting all of that on this day and certainly during this time on the clock. Yes, we all believe that it's supposed to be Jamarcus Russell, but would we all go, what happened if it's Calvin Johnson or if they trade? No, because it's Al Davis and the Raiders.
Good.
It is good.
He's selling tickets already.
It's the truth,
Did you get it?
It's the truth, though.
In his fashion. Now, you've heard the expression, able to leap tall buildings with a single bound with Superman. So Jamarcus Russell able to throw a football 60 yards off his knees, maybe 80, 85 yards. Is this true, Mel?
Got extraordinary ability, boom, throwing the football. You got a kid with his size and his arm strength, certainly John Elway-like, Burt Jones-like. And I think when you look at Jamarcus Russell, the improvement he made throughout his career is unbelievable to go from where he was early on to where he was this past season as a junior. 28 touchdown passes, only 8 picks. Decision-making improvement was phenomenal. And then you look at the imposing size. You talk about recognition when you drop back in that pocket. This guy is not a scrambler. This guy is a pocket passer, and the window there, a little, I think, narrower at times. I think it has expanded because of the skill of their wide receivers, and that concerns some people in the NFL that, hey, he had guys running wide open, but when he did have that narrow window, he was able to deliver the football. Mobility is not ever going to be Vince Young, but he can sidestep defenders, shrug them off in the pocket with all that strength, and pick up a first down when need be. Keep those chains moving. You look at 6'5 and a half, 260, to be able to see the field, #1, and then be able to be very difficult to tackle in that pocket for defensive ends and blitzing linebackers. That size is very imposing, getting the ball up and over a Jarvis Moss from Florida, up and over those big defensive ends. Arm strength, as I said, John Elway, Burt Jones, like this kid has a rocket arm, can throw from any angle of his body, doesn't have to set, plant, and mechanics don't have to be ideal for this kid. And you watch him here, line of scrimmage, the own 42-yard line of LSU, gets away some pressure there, and there goes the football. Down the field, accurate strike, and here we see him on his knee, throwing the football, almost hit the roof, and throwing the football 64 yards. That is an amazing skill set that Jamarcus Russell brings to the table. You see what I talked about earlier, the improvement throughout his career. Look at that touchdown-interception ratio. Gradually improved to the point where it was outstanding. You look at the completion percentage, phenomenal. And when he did make a mistake and had a bad play, he had a very short memory.
All right, we've seen what he can do. Obviously, some amazing arm skills. Steve, so what is it necessary to have to be a big-time quarterback?
I mean, that was a pretty good highlight reel right there, Mel. You have to say that kid's got a lot of talent. There's three things that I've seen over the years that great quarterbacks have to have, and I would not put a premium on arm strength and size, although they're important. As long as a quarterback is average and everything else, the three things that you have to have is what I call leadership moxie. The ability to come into a game and say, yeah, I've got a defensive head coach who doesn't know how to call plays. Yeah, my thumb hurts. Yeah, it's raining. Yeah, my teammates are down in the fourth quarter by 8. I got a selfish wide receiver, a second string left tackle. I'm looking for all my teammates are looking for the bus to go home. The crowd's on me. How do I now wrap that all up, put it on my back, and tell everybody we're going down and win this football game? That's leadership moxie. Everybody has to have it. Jamarcus Russell is so young, I don't even know how to judge him on that, but it's got to come out of that because he needs that element. He also needs what I call aptitude, the ability to take all the information in the NFL, all the plays, everything that goes on in the playbook, memorize it and get ready to play. I think that he can do that. He showed that ability that he can grow very quickly, did that last year. And then accuracy. Every great quarterback has to be able to deliver the football on the spot. Not enough is talked about on that level. We'll talk about that with Brady Quinn later. Jamarcus Russell does have that. So it's his youth that I think is the most big factor here as he's the savior of the Oakland Raiders. Is he ready to do that day one? No. But in time, yes.
You know what I like? As we were going on, Keyshawn's listening to describe all this about a quarterback. You want to get in the huddle right now? I just know. Let me get in the huddle with this sort of guy. So we know he's not retiring quite yet. A guy that played quarterback awfully well in the National Football League once upon a time, took the Eagles to a Super Bowl. Ron Jaworski. As you look at Russell, and good morning or good afternoon, I should say, Jaws. His arm strength, what stands out most about you?
Well, you know, I love Steve's keys, but I think accuracy goes to the top. It is the most overlooked aspect of quarterbacking, throwing the football accurately. I would disagree with Steve about arm strength. I see the NFL now where you have to have a power thrower in the pocket. As you see the evolution of defenses with nickel and dime packages, the windows are very small. You have to be able to stick the ball in those tight windows. That's what Jamarcus Russell can do. So I think the power throwers have a better chance. Because I've studied Jamarcus Russell, the one thing he can do is he has the inventory of every throw you project to the next level. And he can make every throw accurately from different platforms. I believe Jamarcus Russell is the only franchise quarterback in this draft. A lot of real good quarterbacks. He's the only guy that I say you build your team around, Boomer.
All right, Jaws, we have 6.5 minutes left with this very first pick, owned at least for the moment by the Oakland Raiders. Or could somebody want to come up or could the Raiders make some other move with quarterback that would allow Calvin Johnson to be, who you have rated highest on the board, for him to be the top pick? Rare ability in a receiver coming out of the draft, yes?
I doubt, Booman, anybody that studied college football and had any ratings whatsoever had anybody but Calvin Johnson, #1 on the board. Immediately when he declared for the NFL draft, he rose immediately to that top spot because he is so physically gifted. Obviously, great character, great work ethic, all those so-called intangibles he brings as well to the table. When you look at a wide receiver, rare physical skills at 6'5", 240 with 4.35 speed and a 42 vertical. The only thing was at Georgia Tech, the quarterback made it a little tough on Calvin because in 4 games, if you can believe it, this year he had 3 receptions or less. In 1 game against Clemson, he was shut out. That shouldn't happen, but it was the quarterback more than it was the receiver, Calvin Johnson. I think you look at this kid, he's the #1 player, but Oakland needs a quarterback more than they need a wideout.
Keyshawn, when you look at Calvin Johnson, what do you see?
I see a combination between Randy Moss and myself. Big, fast, physical guy who's doing a tremendous job, and just he can be one of the top guys ever to play the game at this position. And I mean, he has hands that are just enormous. I shook his hands last night, and I said to myself, if I had those hands, I'd probably play another 15 years.
I had an evaluator tell me, Calvin Johnson, ability of Randy Moss, character of Jerry Rice.
Here it is, the first pick.
Okay, Raider fans. With the first pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select quarterback Jamarcus Russell, LSU.
Five and a half, 260 pounds. You saw him throwing his knees over 60 yards. Jamarcus Russell, who last year threw for over 3,000 yards, 68%, 28 TDs and only 8 interceptions, played big in the big games, and now he's the #1 overall pick in the 2007 draft, making it 8 of the last 10 years a quarterback going #1, Mel.
And you're really looking at this, Boone. Oakland taking a guy like Matt Leinart or Jay Cutler last year, they could have taken Calvin Johnson, but the quarterback situation the way it is right now, Jamarcus Russell's going to immediately energize that Raider Nation, that fan base, that football team on the practice field, in that locker room. 3 years from now, you could be looking at a guy who's certainly one of the elite top 5 quarterbacks in this league. And I think when you look at the difference between Brady Quinn and Jamarcus Russell, everybody said it's the superior physical ability. Brady Quinn's a big guy. Nobody has an arm like Jamarcus Russell, and the mobility is a little underrated. I think that slow, deliberate motion is a concern. Having great receivers running wide open, the NFL, that's not going to be the case. Obviously, he'll need a little time, but you're talking about a 2 to 3 year period once he's under center. Look out, because skill level that he has is certainly John Elway-like.
You know what? The Raiders kept it to the end. They made the pick and then called him. That's why he's not right up there and saying, we can't tell you yet. Oh, now you're picked. He obviously just met Al Davis over the phone. You know what is interesting is we go to 8 out of 10. 98, Peyton Manning, home run. 99, Tim Couch, not so much a home run. Michael Vick in 2001, exciting, we'll see. 2002, David Carr, on to his second team. 2003, Carson Palmer, we think he'll be great. 2004, Book still out on Eli. 2005, Alex Smith. So you're seeing, just because you're first with the quarterback, your rate of an A to a D is all over the map.
It's a quarterback-centric league. At the end of the day, quarterbacks run the league, and that's why they're that first pick. And I talked to Greg Knapp, offensive coordinator, earlier this week. He believes that Jamarcus Russell can do very well in this offense. This is going to be a quick strike offense. I wouldn't call it West Coast because that word means so much now, but it's going to be a quick drop, deeper drop as well. He'll be able to make all those throws. Greg felt he had a quick release. He could make the short throw, the long throw. Mel and everyone has said about his arm strength, but he's also a great touch, so that'll give him the ability to run this offense very well.
See, I remember I'm talking to Rams coach Scott Linehan, who knows quarterbacks pretty well, saying his range with his arm is bizarre. But he's got touch, he's got accuracy. Now, some people believe strongly he does have to sit at least a year. And think about this. At LSU, he was a highly acclaimed high school quarterback coming out with all these physical skills, by the way. They made him redshirt for a year, and then they got him ready and worked him hard, and he got better every year, as Mel pointed out.
Every year was a big point because the year before, that would have been a big issue because sophomore year was not nearly what his junior year was.
Just a little bit of history for the Raiders. Their first, once upon a time, they got a guy who was a first-round pick, not of their own, but his name was Billy Cannon. Played at LSU. Billy Cannon was on Super Bowl teams. He becomes the 8th #1 overall pick in the draft to be a member of the Oakland Raiders. But it's the first one that they drafted themselves. Good luck. Jamarcus Russell. Is it Calvin Johnson next as Detroit is on the clock?
Coach Ditka, did you really say you'd trade all your draft picks for a case of frost-brewed Coors Light?
I mean, I didn't say it in those general terms, but I said it like that.
Okay, well then what about the teams that didn't trade for Coors Light?
You know, they're behind everybody else right now, and they have to catch up.
Coach, are you sure you're not confusing the NFL draft with draft beer?
I'm going to keep them lose my trainer. Who?
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, I thought he couldn't see. Is this cool?
He doesn't seem as comfortable there for some reason.
Hey, Rooks. I didn't get picked first in the draft. Didn't start my first 3 games. Didn't sit still. Didn't want to play another position. and definitely didn't want to lose my first NFL game back home in Houston. But I did do one thing no one expected. I did get Rookie of the Year. Welcome to Madden NFL 08. Probably not yet rated. EA Sports is in the game.
What's up? Nothing. Check this out. Is that what you call a chair in Minnesota? It's game time. Bring it! Oh, yeah.
Go to NFLShop.com to get your new NFL Draft Day hat. I want that! NFLShop.com.
Back in New York, and just moments ago in the green room, an emotional Calvin Johnson just got some news. Detroit Lions with the second pick on the clock. Now, we don't know anything yet, but no activity at the Lions table, but he looked pretty happy. That's just us reading into it. The Lions have a little under 8 minutes to take their time, and of course the Detroit Lions, what have they done in recent years? They've drafted a wide receiver, number 1. The Lions last year, in the first year under Rod Marinelli, were 3-13. And so the last years, after Joey Harrington was a quarterback drafted, Charles Rogers didn't pan out. Roy Williams is certainly a good player. Mike Williams hadn't panned yet. And then last year, Ernie Sims. So look at that. 3 of the last 4 years, a wide receiver, but with all due respect to Roy Williams, who's a very good player in this league, none of them have the skill sets of Calvin Johnson.
Well, I think that one thing that you got to think about, if they take Calvin Johnson, they're probably looking to trade with Tampa, so Tampa can now take Adams and do some things there with him. What do you think about that?
Well, we know it's been discussed. Sal Paolantonio's been talking about it. It's been speculated about. But at the same time, Matt Millen, what he was trying to do is be so dynamic outside with wide receivers. Charles Rogers was a lot of people's number 2 pick in that draft. He broke his collarbone twice. He ran into problems with drugs. So the concept was, okay, it's Mike Williams that threw everybody off. So if Calvin Johnson is one of the top-rated prospects of the last 10 years, that'd be like saying, okay, we have some good running backs, but some of them slipped up. Here comes Barry Sanders. Oh, we better not take Barry Sanders. No, you take him. I believe the Lions are going to draft Calvin Johnson. If they cannot trade, they're going to be very happy that they have him.
But being around Coach Marinelli loves defensive players. He loves guys like a Simeon Rice, a defensive end. Adams is there for him. Brian Kelly is not happy in Tampa right now. He wants out. Rob Marinelli coached Brian Kelly at USC. He likes him. He coached him down in at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got rid of Dre Bly. So moving that thing around, and John Gruden loves big receivers. We all know that.
No, listen, if anybody in this draft right now traded up to get Calvin Johnson, we'd all say, what a great move. Because Calvin Johnson, really, if we're talking about not just the top-rated draft prospect in this draft, but one of the top-rated prospects of any draft.
Well, we do know this, and folks should remember the scenario by which a couple of years ago, Eli Manning said he wouldn't go Chargers. Chargers picked him anyway. Then Phillip Rivers went to Giants several picks later. Then that trade happened afterwards. So there is a possibility that even if we're about to hear Calvin Johnson's name announced for Detroit, that until Tampa comes up, maybe even behind, they pick a player Detroit wants, that still could materialize. For the latest from Buccaneer headquarters, let's join him with Sal Paolantonio. Hi, Sal.
Hi, Boomer. There's no question that exactly what Keyshawn Johnson talked about a little while ago, that if the Lions do take Calvin Johnson, that the Bucs could entertain the idea of taking Gaines Adams and then a swap of picks, but it wouldn't be that easy because I'm told that the Lions are demanding both of the Bucs' second-round picks. And at this point, General Manager Bruce Allen, who told me yesterday I could sit at 4 and do nothing and be very happy, that's what they would do, Boomer.
All right, Sal, thank you. A little under 5 minutes to go here on the Detroit Lions pick. Our Monday night crew is together here at the draft. That would be Mike Tirico, Ron Jaworski, Tony Kornheiser. Michael.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody. There is no question that there will be trade activity before, during, and after the Lions' time on the clock. Tony, this is a franchise that has lost 10 games 6 consecutive years, but is not under the pressure franchises would be given that recent track record.
Apparently not. Apparently the greatest people to work for in the world are the Ford family, because they don't much care about football. They care what's going to replace the Taurus. I mean, that's the big business there. You can make draft after draft after draft and whiff on it, and it's okay.
But ultimately, Tony, you have to win. The fans in Detroit have about had it. They've got to start winning football games. Somewhere along the way, they've got to find the quarterback. I love it, Calvin Johnson, love it, Adrian Peterson, but eventually, John Kitna is not going to be the guy under center. They need the man at quarterback in Detroit, and they've got to get him in this draft.
You live there.
I can tell you with certainty that the past history of receivers, working or not working, will not deter them from taking Calvin Johnson with this selection. So, Boomer, there's Detroit on the clock with the card going in from right behind us. Here's Roger Goodell, the commissioner, with the second overall pick of this draft. Will the Lions take a receiver at the top of their draft for the 4th time in the last 5 years? I love that line.
With the second pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions take wide receiver Calvin Johnson, Georgia Tech.
Calvin Johnson, 6'5", with speed of 4.38. Now, I know those are numbers, but those are not usually numbers that you put together with a receiver at 6'5". So there's Calvin in the green room, and we saw the reaction in Detroit. A great moment. I mean, can we put ourselves back in the position of these young men? They've dreamt of their life about playing pro football. Now they're here in New York, whatever team it is, Keyshawn, and there you go. You remember this field.
Well, you know, if the Detroit Lions hold on to Calvin Johnson, they got something special. I just don't believe that they will. You can't get a guy like this. He's better than any of the receivers that they have right now. He'll be a Pro Bowler in Mike Martz's system in the next couple of years. But I know Coach Marinelli loves defensive players, and he wants to build around defense. But if they hold on to him, he'll make John Kitna or whatever quarterback they take in the second round a much better quarterback.
Well, they certainly play. You know what? Maybe here's something to think about. As the photo op, maybe they're going to line up all wide receivers. Try it. Be some good razzle-dazzle play. Boise State did it.
Well, the question you have to ask yourself here, if you're a Detroit Lion fan or anybody listening out there, you're talking about a guy and watching, that why not a quarterback? Why not Brady Quinn here? When this whole thing unfolded, we knew Oakland was picking one, and we knew Detroit was picking two. I said, oh, Russell's perfect for Oakland, and Brady Quinn's perfect for the Detroit Lions, and Mike Martz. Tough, smart kid. Mike Martz is going to love this guy. And you look at Calvin Johnson instead of Brady Quinn. Calvin Johnson, as we said, physically gifted. Russell at quarterback, unbelievable, off-the-charts physical ability. Calvin Johnson at wide receiver. You see him here like a power forward in the NBA. Those smaller cornerbacks have no chance. The great hands, the ability to separate is something everybody thought big receivers can't separate. They have their burst out of their break. They don't have the issues. They have problems in terms of things at the pro level that will hamper them, a la guys that we've talked about, Mike Williams. That factor, I think, will affect perception if Calvin Johnson doesn't pan out big. He should be dominant. If he's not, every big receiver that comes along, Keyshawn, from now on is going to be scrutinized. You see him here adjusting to a poorly thrown ball. He had to do a lot of that during his career at Georgia Tech. As I said, 4 games this year, only 3 receptions or less. He should have been dynamic every game. You see the ability there. No hesitation move, then wide open in the hands. The long arms are amazing. Cornerbacks 5'9", 5'10", 5'11". Should have no chance against Calvin Johnson, Steve.
For a moment, throw away the whole physical prowess that he has. I'm just talking about his character. I talked to an offensive coordinator that interviewed him in the pre-draft time, and he said that he pushed him on why you didn't catch more balls across the field. Why didn't you come across the field more? And he pushed him on why, and instead of kind of selling out his quarterback, Reggie Ball, who had trouble seeing over linemen and throwing those balls. He never did. He kept saying, look, I played what I got. I took the passes that I got. I never went against it. And he never sold out anybody. He got pushed on it, and the coach was actually looking to see if he would sell out one of his teammates, and he never did. This kid, you got to put it in perspective. You have the body type of Terrell Owens. Think of what Terrell Owens does on the field. You have the ability at the long ball with Randy Moss and jumping and catching those balls and timing and everything else of Randy Moss. And then you have the character and work ethic, and I hate to say this because I played him for many years, of Jerry Rice. This is that kind of a kid. If they do trade him to Tampa, whoo, I don't know.
Real quick, Mel, one of the highest grades in your years of grading players for the draft at any position?
John Elway would always have the highest boom, but certainly as a wide receiver, he has the highest and one of the elite grades. And I think it's critical for Calvin Johnson to do something that a lot of big receivers have struggled with. Going into the NFL, how many opportunities is he going to get? Brady Quinn was on the board here. The Detroit Lions now have to look early second round. Steve brought his names up. Trent Edwards from Stanford, John Beck, BYU. Mike Martz developed Mark Bolger, developed Kurt Warner, Trent Green. He feels like he can take a guy that nobody else is that high on and make him a quarterback. But Brady Quinn was staring them in the face, and they passed on him. And that's going to be something 5 years from now we'll look back on and see how Quinn stacks up against, say, Edwards or Beck.
And now Brady Quinn is staring in the face of the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are on the clock. Brady Quinn is from Dublin, Ohio. Brady Quinn has played in bad weather. He's from Notre Dame right up the road. The pieces of the puzzle fit. Do the Browns read it that way? We'll be back.
Hello. Yeah, this head ball coach. He ran a what? Hey, I told you he could really go. Yeah, click-clack.
Two smacks and a lift off.
Click-clack.
Tonight, with the series tied, the Nuggets come back to Denver to take on the Spurs in Game 3. Then, with the Rockets up 2-1, the Jazz are out to even it up. The NBA playoffs continue tonight on ESPN with Spurs Nuggets at 8 Eastern and Rockets Jazz at 10:30.
ESPN's coverage of the NFL Draft is presented by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer, and in part by Hummer, proud sponsor of the 2007 NFL Draft. Hummer, like nothing else. And Under Armour Performance, the advantage is undeniable.
I would like to get into Cleveland early.
Now on the clock, the Cleveland Browns. That's Joe Thomas and his dad getting set to go on a fishing trip today on the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan aboard the Foxy Lady 3. They're out at sea. Will they be awash pretty soon as a member of the Browns? Will they have to wait any longer? Will Brady Quinn go to an Ohio team? Will Adrian Peterson, running back, who was a running back who was pretty good once upon a time, played with the Cleveland Browns. Will he be one to pick up the torch? Well, we all think we know that Calvin Johnson will be one of those special players. He showed his emotion just a moment ago, Susie.
Well, when Calvin Johnson walked into the room, he was giggling. What's going through your mind now?
Oh man, I mean, my new situation where I know I'm gonna be at, you know, I'm just excited about going to Detroit.
For months we heard Calvin Johnson, best player in the draft. Beyond the natural ability, what does it take to earn that kind of recognition?
Just hard work every day, you know. You got to put your mind to what you want to do and go out there and achieve the goals that you set, you know. And like I say, nothing but hard work that got me here.
So how does a rookie go into a new situation with all the hype, but still earn everybody's respect?
You got to work hard. I think you'll gain everybody's respect when they see you. You're the first one on the field, last one off. You know, just that hard work, you know, and then they'll respect you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris?
All right, Susie, thank you very much. Cleveland Browns, 5.5 minutes to go with their selection. Browns now under year 3 with Romeo Cornell, who for years worked under Bill Belichick and has Super Bowl rings to show for it. They couldn't run the ball last year. 31st out of 32 teams in the National Football League. Charlie Fry, the quarterback, along with Derek Anderson. They did sign Jamal Lewis, the one-time 2,000-yard rusher from the Baltimore Ravens, and guard Eric Steinbach. Not the novelist John Steinbeck, but that's another story. And the quarterbacks last year, not the way to go, although Fry was young. Is he their guy, or do they just go with Brady Quinn, a man from Dublin, Ohio, not far down the road, with whom you can put a face on the franchise more? Why not?
It is a face that they tried to do with Tim Couch when they started this expansion franchise. But at the same time, they have had a lot of risk. And if they see any risk in Brady Quinn, I see Phil Savage, the general manager of the Browns, going with what people think might be the safest pick next to Calvin Johnson in this draft. That could be Joe Thomas, tackle, Wisconsin. Remember, Savage was the personnel director in Baltimore when they selected Jonathan Ogden, tackle, when everybody else in the world said, go offense, go offense, go offense. And oh, by the way, that paid off for the Baltimore franchise when they took Ogden. This could pay off if they go with Thomas, even though nobody certainly is going to blame him for taking the quarterback or the running back.
Steve, last 2 years under Charlie Weiss, 69 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions, Brady Quinn. However, we can debate that. Pretty productive for a couple of
and
years.
it's, you know, as Mort said, you can make a substantial case for someone other than Brady Quinn. But perceptionally, for the Cleveland Browns, as a new franchise in the last 5 or 6 years, what do you need to do to make a statement? Brady Quinn is a statement maker. He's a local kid from Notre Dame. He's ready to play football. He's gone through all the rigors that a pro quarterback has to go through. At the end of the day, Brady Quinn will make a big, huge statement of anyone else in the draft. Right there in Cleveland. I think that, you know, taking all in perception is 9/10 of the law in the NFL, not possession. Perception is Cleveland Browns make a huge statement by taking Brady Quinn.
Well, I mean, he excelled under Charlie Weiss, who, like Romeo Crennel, won Super Bowl rings coaching under Bill Belichick. Here's the pick.
Okay, with the third pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select left tackle Joe Thomas, Wisconsin.
So, the first to some curveball of the draft. You saw they couldn't run. Obviously, Joe Thomas, who grades out one of the highest grades that an offensive lineman has had in recent years, Mel, grading up towards Tony Baselli, grading up towards Chris Samuels, right? Or maybe even very close to them. Grade-wise, grading ahead of DeBrickashaw Ferguson, who went 4 last year at tackle to the New York Jets. So, as a blue-chip tackle, if you buy it,
no question about it, Boom. I think what Cleveland is doing and Phil Savage is doing is saying, hey, we can build around a quarterback if we bolster the offensive line. We add some pieces for Charlie Fry or Derek Anderson. Joe Thomas this past year, and I said it all season, from the start to the finish, you could argue he was the most dominant player in college football. Nobody got near the Wisconsin quarterback. He did a great job. And the amazing thing was he came off a knee injury from January, wasn't even 100% in August, yet he had a great season. You watch him here, number 72, the gifted athlete he is, able to get down the field, hit a moving target, and allow that wide receiver to pick up extra yardage. Here against Michigan, nobody got near quarterback John Stocco. Lamar Woodley was on the other side. He stoned Alan Branch on a loop and did a great job here. You talk about the entire game against Arkansas. Jamal Anderson was on the field in that game as well. So here's a kid who's athletic, has great feet. The one concern is, will the power guys in the NFL at defensive end get the best of him? At the combine, he struggled to get 28 reps up. So that's the only concern. He's not quite as strong as you would prefer him to be. He'll handle the athletic, quick guys off the edge. The power guys, that's going to be the challenge for Joe Thomas. The thing is here, Boom, go back to Phil Savage. You won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer. As Mort said, he drafted Jonathan Ogden. The key, though, is Charlie Fry or Derek Anderson. Charlie Fry's completion percentage went up. -7 touchdown interception ratio bothers a lot of people.
Once every other year, you have a tackle mostly taken in the first 5 picks. Ferguson, we mentioned last year to the Jets. Robert Gallery hadn't panned to date with the Oakland Raiders. Mike Williams certainly didn't pan with the Buffalo Bills. Leonard Davis moved on. But Samuels, we mentioned, certainly Pace and Ogden and Baselli. Those last 4 there are as good as we've seen come into the league in the last dozen years. So Cleveland goes. They're playing in the bad weather. We got to slug it out with Baltimore. We got to slug it out with Pittsburgh. We got to at least keep the Cincinnati offense off the field. They go to a tackle. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock with about 10.5 minutes to go, and we head to Tampa for the latest with Sal Palantonio. Sal. Well, Boomer, Bruce Allen, the general manager of the Bucs, said he had multiple options if he stayed at number 4. Of course, this is a defense that will have 5 projected starters in their 30s when they start the season. So they could go for defensive help, and the obvious pick here would be defensive end Gaines Adams out of Clemson. They have a running back in Cadillac Williams. Almost 2 years ago was Rookie of the Year, but John Gruden is absolutely in love with Adrian Peterson. However, I'm told that they do have an interest in Brady Quinn, the quarterback out of Notre Dame, even though they have on the roster Phil Simms, who they just signed a contract extension with, and also brought in Jeff Garcia. Earlier this morning, a Bucs official called representatives of Brady Quinn and expressed an interest and said, we might take Brady Quinn here. They also could trade down with a team that would be interested in Brady Quinn, perhaps the Miami Dolphins. A lot of possibilities here, Boomer. All right, Sal, thank you very much. We just saw the list. I mean, an interest in Brady Quinn. Let's see. So we're going to stockpile the following. We have Chris Simms coming off the spleen injury, and he's ready to roll. We got Jeff Garcia. You saw what he did with Philadelphia last year. He is in Tampa. They traded for Jake Plummer, and theoretically, he's retired, but theoretically he's a property of Bucs. How could they be interested in Quinn?
Well, first of all, some people just get to this point. You're picking in the top 5. You're paying a lot of money, and sometimes you just look at value. If Gaines Adams, the defensive end of Clemson, who we've all been slotting here, doesn't have that high grade to justify the money you're going to pay him, you might say, hey, we're looking at Brady Quinn. Because, look, they only have Chris Simms signed up for 2 more years. Jeff Garcia is only a 2-year guy. Jake Plummer, who knows what's going to happen with him. But for John Gruden to take a young quarterback, and he doesn't like young quarterbacks, it'd be a bold statement there, no question about it. At the same time, Brady Quinn is a guy that John Gruden worked out personally. Actually had a little fun with him. I think he showed him his picture with just his shorts on, when Brady Quinn looks like a magazine model bodybuilder, and John was saying, hey, you could use another 6-pack here or whatever. So the bottom line is John Gruden has this fascination with quarterbacks, even if he doesn't like young quarterbacks. So
bodybuilding and accuracy.
Well, Bill Walsh used to say that he loved his athletes like Muhammad Ali, not built like, Joe Frazier. I mean, he would always talk about boxing and how you wanted to be smooth and lithe, and you wanted to have the muscle build that was not so defined. If he saw a defined player, even a defensive line back, he would not like that athlete. He likes quarterbacks that look like Muhammad Ali. And I'm telling you, Brady Quinn, you take his shirt off, he does not look like Muhammad Ali.
You had interesting times with Coach Gruden down at Tampa Bay.
I can see him doing this. He loves quarterbacks. He really does. And when we were down in Tampa together, we had revolving door quarterbacks. Every time you look up, he was working out a guy. You had rumors he was going to get a guy. He wasn't happy with one quarterback after a win. He was going to do something else. So I can see him actually doing this.
Well, Brady Quinn, who knows? He's in the green room right now. He's certainly, hey, there's only been 3 picks that are gone in the draft. He's with Susie Culver. Suze?
Well, Brady, you talked so much about one of the dreams being #1 overall. So how are you handling this?
Well, you know, obviously, again, it's something where you set up a goal for yourself. And if you don't accomplish it, I think you just got to do what you can with whatever you have left. And again, well, I've always talked about this. We don't have a say in where we go in this draft. You know, we just kind of have to sit back and wait and see what happens. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
And we watched you as Cleveland was on the clock, and you grew up just outside of Cleveland. What was going through your mind then?
Well, I mean, we understand that there's a lot of things going on right now, and you hear a lot of different rumors with where they want to go. So you don't prepare yourself thinking, you may go there, you may not. I mean, I'm just waiting to hear, you know, I guess waiting to see when my name's called. And once that happens, then I'll give some sort of reaction.
Has there been anything up till now that gives you any indication of what might be coming now?
I've got a couple ideas, but again, until it happens, I mean, nothing matters. Everything's just rumors or smoke screens. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, he was prepared for this, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, there's no, quote, bad thing if you play the Matt Leinart role and all of a sudden always slipping all the way down to 10, which is still very high, and go to a team with which we still, 1 year in, feel is a perfect fit for him. So,
or Chris, the Bucs might be getting word out. We're getting ready to take Brady Quinn. Anybody who wants to come get him, come to us.
Actually, yesterday when I talked to him, sorry, Mel, I cheered him on to make it all the way to 9 to Miami with Cam Cameron. I said, look, this could be the greatest thing that could happen to you. And I know in the back of his mind, because he mentioned it, that that's not a bad thing to happen. This kid is a mature kid. He's not going to worry about today's kind of, if there's any embarrassment about waiting till 9. 9's a great spot. If he does slip all the way to Miami, which is possible, a great spot for Brady Quinn.
The thing concerns me, Steve, is that, Jake Plummer's still in the mix. If you thought you had the right quarterback, Jake Plummer retired, okay? You have Jeff Garcia, system quarterback. You have Chris Sims coming off an injury. Bruce Gradkowski, a late-round pick. The question I have more is, does John Gruden think he can win big with any of these quarterbacks?
Well, he went to the playoffs with Chris Sims. But let's face it, John Gruden, he's a little bit crazy. There's only been one quarterback he's been in love with, and that's Rich Gannon, since he's been a head coach in this league.
But he loves his quarterbacks right now. Jeff Garcia is a player, and I think also Chris Sims. That's why he wanted Calvin Johnson.
He felt like,
hey, look, he had those guys. He knows that he can win with those guys. I think that's why he wanted Calvin Johnson.
Why is he interested in Jake Plummer?
I think he's looking for a posse of guys because he knows. It's not answered, but I think he's satisfied with those guys, that group of guys.
Plus, not only that, you have to have a number of quarterbacks in this league because if the first guy goes down, you have to have a second guy. You see what happened to us last year with Jake. Jake went down, and we were stuck with nothing, basically.
well, here would be my thought on Tampa as a whole. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers still have a decent defense. Certainly, guys like Derek Brooks may not be playing at the level that he once did, but their defense, considering the offense didn't move very much last year, was middle of the pack. They signed Cato June, a light linebacker, but one that certainly understands how to play big-time football. So if you draft a couple of defensive players to make that unit good again, that's the way one side of the ball, the offense was ranked among the last. So if it's not Quinn, who would you go? I mean, obviously they're aging, but Simeon Rice, Rondé Barber, Derek Brooks, these guys still play good football. There's some others around. So maybe you make that defense pretty good still. If that's the case, where do they go?
And they have not used a #1 pick, a first-round draft pick on a defensive player, I think since '99 with Anthony McFarland. So you've got Gaines Adams, the defensive end from Clemson, who brings the speed off the edge that Monty Kiffin, the defensive coordinator, loves. Or you have an Amobi Okoye, a Louisville defensive tackle who can play either tackle or a Warren Sapp or an Anthony McFarland type position. So yes, defense makes all the sense in the world for the Buccaneers, but right now we get a little mystery.
Yeah, not only that, they got to pick somebody right now that will help them win because they got to win.
Well, that's it. That's the other point.
They got
John Gruden, some people think he only has 1 year left.
It's been quite a run there, huh? It's been a Super Bowl, 2 years no playoffs, win division, no playoffs. It's been an odd roller coaster in Tampa for Coach Gruden.
You mentioned the age, and all three of us just kind of hit on it. He recognizes that defense is going to have to be retooled and restructured over the next few years. This might be this window, and that's why, again, Calvin Johnson is why he wants a big playmaker to come in to help this team maybe go to the Super Bowl again. If not, let's start preparing.
Would have been great, but they've got to deal with the defense. I mean, listen, we love quarterbacks, we love throwing the ball, but we know that defense does win championships.
Is there any chance they're talking to Detroit right now? What do you want us to pick?
There's certainly a chance, but they've got. Listen, we may talk about Brady Quinn and Calvin Johnson. Practically speaking, how do you continue to ignore your defense?
Gaines Adams, who is in New York, the defensive player here in New York. Now, what does he bring?
He brings pass rush ability off the edge, boom. I think you look at how he compares to Mario Williams from last year's draft, the #1 pick overall. Not certainly as physically gifted as Mario Williams, but you can make an argument that Gaines Adams was the more consistent pass rusher from the start of the season this past year till the end. Remember, a lot of Mario Williams sacks his junior year at NC State came the second half of the season. The problem with Gaines Adams, and we'll see him here at number 93, the ability to get after the quarterback is, first of all, the Wake Forest game, he turned that game around here. When you talk about in the fourth quarter, they were down big. Gaines Adams getting after the quarterback. Gaines Adams here picking up the blocked field goal, taking it all away. And I think that's the thing with Gaines Adams. Off the edge, he will wreak havoc. Against the run, those run responsibilities, being strong at the point, that's where he has issues. Lazy, uninspired against the run. You've got to be a complete player in the NFL, a one-dimensional guy this early. That's why some people talk about the bust factor, boom, about Gaines Adams.
Now the pick is in. We're looking for the smile on Gaines. Let's see if we get it now.
Okay, Buck fans. With the 4th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Gaines Adams, defensive end, Clemson.
You know what? And that young man's got a good poker face. He was on the phone for a couple minutes. We couldn't read if it was the team or his folks. I mean, you know, it was just what was going on. So Gaines Adams becomes the first defensive player to go, and they start to retool this defense. And by the way, here's what they hope he becomes. When you go up against him, no Gaines Adams.
Well, he brings them that speed off the edge that Monty Kiffin, the defensive coordinator, loves. The only knock I heard on Gaines Adams, for the most part, and Mel addressed some of it, is, you know, this guy played 8-man football in high school. Doesn't really mix it up well when you're talking about, you know, holding up against the run and what have you. But for the Tampa Bay defense, they love speed off the edges. You know, Keyshawn, Simeon Rice has 1 year left on his contract. Dwayne White, they traded, is now in Detroit with Rod Marinelli. So yes, Gaines Adams does make sense.
But I don't think that's really I don't really think that that's a factor of whether or not he can play the run. What defensive ends in the National Football League plays the run outside of a guy like a Julius Peppers? And he's not Julius Peppers. He's closer to Simeon Rice than anything. So I think they get a fair pick here for what they want to do. But remember, they still may trade this pick. We don't know for sure to Detroit.
Keep selling it.
Well, the assumption always was when you did your projections of the first round, that somehow, some way, Tampa Bay was going to get Calvin Johnson, and the Detroit Lions were going to get a Gaines Adams to put together that very formidable defensive front with Rodgers, Redding, and Dwayne White. Obviously, we'll see what happens down the road with whether that scenario unfolds.
Well, the Buccaneers, their glory days. I know, Keyshawn, you want a Super Bowl with them, but their glory days with defense. They had a speed guy on defense. As Mort points out, the first this century that they picked. Number one, we'll show you more. Gaines Adams when we come back. But now the Arizona Cardinals, they are on the clock. As still in the green room include Brady Quinn, Adrian Peterson. We'll be back to New York with the 5th pick of the draft in a moment.
Hey rookies, you want some advice? Take everything you want to do next season and write it down. Like be a starter, or set an NFL record, or make the Pro Bowl. But you still would never put, I'm gonna run the opening kickoff of the Super Bowl back for a touchdown. Not in your wildest dreams. Welcome to Madden NFL 08, product not yet ready. EA Sports, it's in the game.
Come from. Feels good. The power. I am really gonna enjoy this.
Love the new outfit. Give me some of that web action.
Rated PG-13, Friday.
If these walls could talk, they'd say with field goal posts this narrow, threading the needle is not always done with your hands. If these walls could talk, they'd say you have to see it to believe it.
Russell Athletic, ESPN Arena Football, Monday at 8 p.m. on ESPN2.
The North American Car of the Year is the 2007 Saturn Aura, rising above such competition as Jaguar, Lexus, Mercedes, Nissan, Toyota, and Honda. What does it take to be named the best? Luxury, performance, and a net cost of $18,995. That's right, $18,995. Safety features, Saturn 100,000-mile warranty, and OnStar are all standard. Test drive the North American Car of the Year, the 2007 Saturn Aura at Saturn of Honolulu.
If you're tired of paying for high-priced, old-fashioned help wanted ads in the newspaper, then do what hundreds of other Hawaii business owners have done. Make the switch to Hawaii Jobs on Demand, brought to you in partnership with Oceanic Time Warner Media.
Hawaii Jobs on Demand has been great for Dolphin Quest Oahu. We found several quality applicants to choose from in our employee search. We found the service easy, convenient, and the customer service just wonderful.
HawaiiJobsOnDemand.com. We're the faster, more effective way to find and hire the local employees that you need now.
Welcome back to the 2007 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Welcome into the NFL Live studios. Trey Wingo here with Mark May, Sean Salisbury, and Michael Smith. All right, guys, the Arizona, for lack of a better term, dilemma right now at 5. The offensive lineman they probably coveted most, Joe Thomas, gone. What do they do, Mark? Do they go offensive line? What about Adrian Peterson, the running back from Oklahoma that is still there?
I think they've got to take an offensive lineman. They may trade down, but Levi Brown is the logical choice. It may be a little bit high to take Levi Brown, the left tackle from Penn State. But the key here is Russ Grimm loves him, the offensive line coach. And the thing is, Russ Grimm, Ken Wisenhunt, I played with both of them in Washington. They go back a long way. They need an offensive tackle. They've got to keep Matt Leinart healthy in this offense, and they've got to be able to run the ball. They've been horrendous the last couple of years running the football, bringing in Edgerrin James, trying to establish a run. But Levi Brown, the left tackle for Penn State, 6'5", 323, does an outstanding job at the point of attack running the football. But the key is, I question a little bit his pass protecting ability. Is he flexible enough to plug in right away in the NFL? That's going to be offensive line coach Russ Grimm's job, his task to get him ready to play at the next level. But if you're looking for a left tackle, he is the second best on the board. And if you're the Arizona Cardinals, you've got to take the second best lineman on the board since you don't have Joe Thomas.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Now, if they draft Adrian Peterson, Arizona here, they just don't get it, which they haven't gotten in a long time. And I don't believe they do it because Edgerrin James, without that offensive line, couldn't run. And he's still young enough to be productive the next 2 or 3 years. That being said, Levi Brown, good football player. But if you think you can go back 3 or 4 picks to a tight franchise and get him less, then you do it. Now, if Russ Grimm and Ken Wisenhunt think that, you know what, he's worth the fifth pick, then you take him. Because the one thing they want to bring back to this organization, which they haven't had forever,
winning,
is not only winning, but also being physical and dominating. What Wisenhunt did in Pittsburgh, they want to do in Arizona because they got enough perimeter people. A running back here would be a big-time mistake. You got to trade down or get a football player that can help you tomorrow.
Although when Ken Wisenhunt was the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, they had a couple of backs that they could throw at people. Okay, so you say trade the pick. Michael Smith, what about the possibility of trading down and maybe getting Levi Brown later?
They won't, because Levi Brown won't get past the Atlanta Falcons at 8. He is their player. They're going to pick him right here in 5, and here's why. As Sean alluded to, the mission for the Arizona Cardinals, they might not win a lot of games, but they want the opposition to know that you face the Arizona Cardinals. Joe Thomas is not their highest rated offensive lineman. It was actually Levi Brown. He's more powerful, he's nastier, and he's more physical, which, again, that's what they want to be on the offensive line. They take him up front, and that's where they're going to go. He is their guy. Russ Grimm conducted his workout at Penn State. That's their guy all along. They're going to take Levi.
Ain't no way Levi Brown's going to be a better pro than Joe Thomas, especially early.
But they like what he brings.
It's too high to draft Levi Brown at this position. I think 10, 11, 12, but the 5th pick in the draft, I don't care what the need factor is. Forget about it. It's too high to take him. But they have to probably take a tackle.
But it's only too high if somebody can trade down and get somebody. You see what I'm saying? All right, we'll find out what happens. Boomer, one thing they need to do is address the running game with a back or a tackle. They were 30th in the league a year ago. Back to you.
All right, gang, thank you very much. Back in New York, Adrian Peterson just burst on the scene as a freshman, or the first year he played with Oklahoma, was unbelievable. Of course, been injury prone since, but special skills at running back. So he's one of those that's being debated by Ken Wisenhunt and the Arizona Cardinals. So Mort, Dennis Green out, Ken Wisenhunt, Russ Grimm and company in. Change of philosophy. Cardinals, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think the Cardinals wish that Joe Thomas would have slid to this point so they would have gotten some trade action, maybe slide back a couple picks and take Levi Brown, because, yes, Russ Grimm loves Levi Brown, the tackle from Penn State. And a lot of people say they could always use Adrian Peterson, even though they have Edgerrin James, because Adrian Peterson is a game breaker, what have you. But they are clearly trying to get some protection for Matt Leinart, what have you. So Levi Brown makes some sense.
Last 2 years, they've averaged 3.2 yards a carry. That's 2005 and 2006. Edgerrin James was added. No improvement at all from the running game. And my point is, you can't run through a brick wall. And I don't care if you're Edgerrin James or Adrian Peterson. This offensive line is the worst in the NFL. Leonard Davis, who was a disappointment as an early first-round pick, he's moved on to Dallas. That is not as a horrible offensive line.
Well, the Arizona Cardinals last year were 5-11. Matt Leinart will be starting the full year this year, and who will he have to help?
With the 5th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals take Levi Brown, tackle, Penn State.
Penn State, known as linebacker U, doesn't often have the big-time offensive lineman. Levi Brown, Russ Grimm loved him. You heard Mark May and company say it.
And it's the right pick for them. They have to protect Matt Leinart and get the running game going. Get the football in the hands of those explosive wide receivers that they have. There's no reason to take Adrian Peterson at this spot.
Forget about value. This is about promising Matt Leinart and Edgerrin James, we promise we will get you some people to help you so you can be successful. And that promise has, despite the fact that they probably wish they could have traded, they had to make this pick.
And Ken Wisenhunt, their head coach, believes that the rest of the offensive line is actually in fairly good shape. They're pretty happy with it. They think they can fix some of it. And don't forget, when do you actually get to bring your line coach when you get a head coaching job like Ken Wisenhunt did? They were together with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's a natural chemistry there. And of course, Grimm, one of the better line coaches in this league, that line can get whipped up at a higher level pretty quickly here now with Levi Brown.
And the gap between Joe Thomas and Levi Brown wasn't huge. In fact, it had closed to the point where a lot of offensive line coaches thought Levi Brown was almost right there with Joe Thomas. Two completely different styles. Levi Brown, you look at a power guy, a rough, tough, nasty former defensive tackle, maybe a right tackle, and certainly with Matt Leinart, left-handed quarterback, that may be an option with the Cardinals.
Real quick, a half a sentence each. Can Arizona in that division make a move?
Absolutely. They can score points with some help of offensive line. They can really be a threat. Go on the road for a rare time for the Cardinals in their history. Go on the road and threaten somebody that we're going to put up 28-31, and you better be ready for a ball game because we're going to get nasty to Mel's point. And I think the Cardinals now in that division with Seattle, San Francisco, no question can start to threaten for the division title.
Well, we'll see. They've got some help now for Matt Leinart. So we've had 5 picks gone with the Washington Redskins now on the clock. And if you're a Redskin fan, you know this is your time because barring a trade, it's the only pick they have today, and they don't have a fourth. They're not going to pick to the middle of tomorrow. So enjoy these 15 minutes. Last year, the defense, where did it go? It was so good the year before when they were a Final 8 team. It was last in takeaways and 31st overall in the NFL. Like, where did it go? And of course, the old George Allen way of doing it, draft for some other time. The future is now. The fewest draft picks in the league since 2000, and of course today they have the fewest as well.
And we do have to start focusing on Brady Quinn here because we know the Redskins are not taking Brady Quinn because they have Jason Campbell, the quarterback. But this is a spot where the Redskins are hoping if you want Brady Quinn, whether you be the Vikings who are picking right behind you, whether you be the Dolphins at number 9, whether or not the Chicago Bears who are talking with the Redskins about Lance Briggs all of a sudden say, let's go get this guy. This is the spot the Redskins are hoping that their phone is heating up right now as we speak. Let's go to Rachel to hear what she has to say about it. Rachel Nichols.
Well, you mentioned the Miami Dolphins. They're certainly the trade partner that's come up for the Redskins. With Brady Quinn still there on the board, he'd be a great fit in Miami. Well, I talked to GM Randy Mueller of Miami a little bit earlier. He said he will certainly pick up the phone if the Redskins are calling him right now. But that being said, it would have to be a very attractive offer. He said, we need our picks. It's the high-rent district up there. And mind you, he thinks that there could still be some fall going on. Even if the Minnesota Vikings do pick Quinn, where does Adrian Peterson land? He said that could be a very interesting conversation. Boomer?
All right, Rachel, thank you very much. So the Washington Redskins, again, if you're a fan of the Skins, tune in now and then go out and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy a lot of tomorrow. Let's head to the Monday Night Football team. Mike?
Well, you're right, Chris. Everybody's hitting on the big story an hour into the draft. 5 picks gone, and 2 guys who may be Pro Bowl potential for a while in Adrian Peterson and Brady Quinn. Wait, Tony, we know Washington's set with Jason Campbell at quarterback, with 2 running backs in Portis and Liddell Betts, who played well at the end of the season. That's your neck of the woods. Give me a little feel for the Skins here.
Well, everybody expects them to do pretty much what they've done the last couple of years, which would be to trade this pick for 3 or 4 coordinators, because they are so stocked in coordinators. And then the way they brought Joe Gibbs back, maybe bring Sonny Jurgensen back or somebody like that to handle it.
Well, they got to look on a defensive side of the football. Greg Williams, an outstanding defensive coordinator, loves guys that play smart, very complex, sophisticated defensive system. They're going to look for a defensive guy that is intelligent.
They were terrible last year on defense.
Last year they were. That's why they got to go. Terrible. I'm looking at safety. How about LaRon Landry? That sound good, Tony?
Out of LSU, what is the pressure level on the Redskins to keep this 1 pick, or after months of talk with the trade with Lance Briggs from Chicago, do they need to wheel and deal?
That's what everybody finally expected to happen, that they would get Lance Briggs. What the Redskins do great is in February and March and April is they set their team up by getting very, very high-priced well-known guys, and those are the promises that later in the fall do not necessarily come true, but they look great usually by
You
now.
can't overlook, this team was decimated by injuries a year ago. They were a playoff team 2 years ago. It could be a quick re-entry back into the playoffs.
5-11 last year. Washington is on the clock, followed by Minnesota, Atlanta, Miami, and Houston. If that's your team, hang in there. Just like Brady Quinn is showing poise and that Notre Dame experience and exposure, patiently waiting to see who will take him. And Adrian Peterson the same. A star running back, a star quarterback still waiting. Redskins on the clock. The draft continues from all over the NFL. Right after this.
Would you like to lose that suit and tie and crack open a cold Coors Light?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Yes.
I mean, we all think Coors Light is totally refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a number of people are beginning to come to that conclusion.
So why drink any other beer?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, a little help with these empties?
Oh, sorry. I certainly haven't come here to, to clean house.
Hello. Yeah, this head ball coach. He ran a what? Hey, I told you he could really go. Yeah, click-clack.
Two smacks and a liftoff. Click, clack.
This is the NFL Draft on ESPN, presented by Coors Light.
Somebody would trade up.
Back at Radio City Music Hall, the Washington Redskins, Brady Quinn in the green room. Going to go soon enough, maybe just not right here, as you point out, number one pick year two ago, Jason Campbell. And so Brady Quinn, Adrian Peterson, waiting for the call. Mel, here's who's sitting. A couple of guys in the green room. I don't think either will wait that much longer.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson, great running back. We know about the durability issues. Minnesota's got a tough decision to make. They have Chester Taylor, Brady Quinn. Will Minnesota take in? They traded up in the second round to get Tavares Jackson last year. They also have Miami sitting there at 9, waiting to see if he'll fall in their lap. And the best defensive player in this draft is LaRon Landry. He would be a great addition to a secondary that needs help next to Sean Taylor. That safety combo, if you add Landry with Taylor, could be exceptional.
All right, Washington's philosophy. Like I said, back to the future in the George Allen days. Mel, they haven't picked much. Hard to build stability when you're signing free agents in their 30s.
Well, it's like it's a philosophy, but I think I've always been a draft guy. Build up draft choices, add to your arsenal, bring in that homegrown talent. The Redskins de-emphasize the draft, and I think they're going back now, trying to get back to homegrown players via the draft. They have no 2, no 3, and no 4 this year, but if they add LaRon Landry, they get, as I said, the best defensive player in this draft to fortify that secondary. He and Sean Taylor would be a great complement to each other. So I think that will change. I think they found out that, hey, going after an Adam Archuleta, a Brandon Lloyd, a TJ Duckett, the list goes on and on, isn't the right way to go. Veterans that are good fits with other teams come in, get the big money, they're not as hungry, and they're not the right fit with your team and your system. So I think it's a good starting point if they can, in fact, add LaRon Landry, and here he is right there. Pick 6 in the draft to get the best defensive player. That doesn't often happen.
Moments ago, LaRon Landry, who is not here in New York, but this is what we saw just moments ago, and that you would think There's your defense. You point out, if LaRon Landry and Sean Taylor are your safeties, nobody's running deep across the middle, I don't think. Not too many, right, Keyshawn?
Not too many, that's for sure.
Right? I mean, even you
Well, I
have
think
to think about it.
if that's the fact, then I think you got to think about Sean Taylor and this guy. I just seen a highlight on him. He knocked this guy silly into the ground. So when you think about that, they concerns are their secondary. They have an older corner in Sean Springs, but this guy will give them some attention to detail, do some things back there to get back to that younger youth inside the draft like they've been doing in the past. They've been drafting guys, but they've been getting away from good players. It was a horrible draft with Steve Spurrier. Now, finally, they're going to pick the right guy.
And his real strength, LaRon Landry, is in the box as a safety around the line of scrimmage, can blitz, get after the quarterback. Tremendous tackler, playing the deep ball, questionable hands. That's not his strength. Sean Taylor will be able to be the center fielder in that defense. LaRon Landry will be the guy getting up in that box and making plays. As I said, there's not a more sure tackler in the country. This is a 4-year starter. You know about how physical he is. You watch him there, number 30, getting after the quarterback, delivering that blow. A tough, aggressive player there as well, delivering the hit in coverage. Again on the blitz. You still have the ability to close on that quarterback at 6'1", 210 pounds. He ran a 4.35 at the combine. Hands for the interception, questionable. He had 3 picks this past year. Could have had very easily 6-7. Could have doubled that. You see the read and react ability. Again, you're talking about a guy in the box, seeing what's going on, reading the quarterback's eyes, recognizing it's a reverse, getting and closing. Talking about the ability to take the right angle in pursuit. He can do that. Talking about measurables and physical prowess. 6'1", 210 pounds, 4.35 40, 37.5-inch vertical jump. Gifted athlete, and I think the Redskins will kind of mask the problems that he has playing that deep ball and in coverage by using the complementary guy, Sean Taylor, to do that more.
You have to be a heck of a football player to be a 4-year starter at LSU. And you put LaRon Landry and Sean Taylor back there, not a lot of receivers, maybe not even Keyshawn Johnson, going to have a lot of fun running across the middle.
As we said, you know, it's interesting to think about. You have the quarterback's already gone. You could have LaRon Landry real high. The 2 receivers were outstanding. Bo and Davis, we could hear from them real. What kind of team did they have, LSU? Pretty darn impressive.
Heck of a football team, and you look at LaRon Landry, he's been around talent for 4 years as a starter. He's been playing against SEC competition. And when you look at the Washington Redskins, and you'd say, okay, they have Sean Taylor. What do they have if they don't add LaRon Landry? Pearson, Prelo, Vernon Fox, a big hole there. If something happened to Sean Taylor, they would be in big trouble at the safety spot. Now you have a dynamic duo. The question mark with LaRon Landry is, like a center fielder who doesn't judge the fly ball well, that's his problem. That's not going to be an issue because Sean Taylor will be doing that.
Keyshawn, though, let's look at, and look, they have Clinton Portis going to be healthy. Betts runs, so it's probably not going to be Adrian Peterson yet.
Well, if I'm Adrian Peterson and Brady Quinn, I'm not so much worried about where I'm going to go right now. A lot of times people worry about going in the first round or high picks because of the dollars. And that makes sense if you want to do some things financially, but it's always better to go to the right place and be with the right team. Because as we know, in this league, if you go too high and you get cut, then everybody's going to deem you as a bust. So for him, I look for Adrian Peterson to maybe go to Minnesota.
He won't be waiting long. That's all I'm going to tell you.
So if I'm you, Adrian, you watching me, don't get down in the green room.
He's not down. The Redskins have made the selection, and here's the question with Washington, and I have to ask this. They're going to sing Hail to the Redskins, and going to draft a guy named Landry?
Tough. Tough, but you know...
Interesting. Interesting. We'll see. We'll see. The commissioner has the card. The Redskins took all their time. Here it is. Enjoy it, Redskin fans.
With the 6th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins take LaRon Landry, safety, LSU.
They did it. They did it.
You know, Boomer, in an era of cover 2, safeties are becoming kind of corners in many ways. They're the deep guys. And to your point, Mel, you question some of his skills, not down in the box, but out in the field. And so now you have 2 safeties. You can place him cover 2. That's probably not the best spot for both of these guys. Both of these safeties love to be.
Greg Williams is not a traditional cover 2 guy.
Right, so you got 2 guys that want to be in the box. It'll be interesting to see how they play that out.
There's a look at Brady Quinn. There's action already at the Minnesota table. I'm thinking the running back. They certainly could think of Brady Quinn, but waiting in the wings is Miami, a couple of teams down. And if it went that way, Peterson running back Vikings, Quinn quarterback Miami. Admittedly, there's another pick in between there, Atlanta. It would kind of be the way.
Here's the thing about Adrian Peterson. You know, he broke his collarbone at Oklahoma last season. And then in the Fiesta Bowl, he played and kind of re-injured it. Didn't re-break it. And so a lot of teams, they brought him back to the Indianapolis Scouting Combine for a physical, a recheck is what they call it. And the doctors there said he's going to be fine. Dr. James Andrews, the noted orthopedist out of Birmingham, Alabama, also says he does not need surgery. He will be fine. So guys like Adrian Peterson who come in here with that injury question mark, which is one reason I think the Browns didn't take him, because they don't want any risk. Right here, it makes a lot of sense to people as we get into these street picks.
Toughness and character.
Oh, he's an unbelievable runner.
Most guys that would get injured as a junior would care about money and wouldn't come back to play for their team. He's shown that, so I don't think injuries are a real problem.
No, what's interesting about Adrian Peterson, you talk to the evaluators, they said if I wasn't concerned a little bit about durability, just a little bit, this guy could be an all-timer. We think he can be an all-time running back. When you got a talent like this, slip into this next few spots.
That rare combination of talent and work ethic. His nickname is AD, not for Adrian, but all day. His teammates say that he is the hardest working guy they've ever been around. And when you get a guy like that with that talent, very special.
Well, let's go down to the green room now. Susie Culver. Suze?
Tom Condon represents both Brady Quinn and Adrian Peterson. We seem to do this every year. What has been the advice so far for Brady?
Well, you know, both Brady and Adrian, and along with my partner Ben Dogra, both terrific young men and great players. So their value's on the board now, and it's unusual to have them last this long. But nevertheless, that's the way the draft goes, and teams are matching need along with the grades. So, you know, I think Brady and Adrian are both fine. They know that they're going to go someplace in the National Football League, and it ought to be pretty soon. And I think they're looking forward to great careers. So they're not very tense about this.
What's been unusual about this situation this year?
Well, I think that, you know, you had 5 offensive players that everybody had very highly rated. And then you run into teams such as Tampa and Washington that really aren't looking for an offensive player. If they're unable to make a trade with somebody, then they're going to take a pick, and they're going to take a pick at a position that they need. So I think that's had a little bit to do with it.
Minnesota up now. Any indications?
Well, you know, Minnesota could certainly, my understanding is that they have Adrian very highly rated on their board, and so it wouldn't be a surprise at all if they would take him here. Otherwise, I'd expect it very shortly. We'll have somebody trade up for one of these guys, or else they'll come off the board with the drafting team.
And latest phone call that involved Brady in any way?
You know, at this time of the day, it's most of all my phone calls on the players are from the press, so the teams aren't disclosing much right now.
All right, Tom, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Susan.
All right, Susie, thank you very much. The Minnesota Vikings on the clock, year 2 under head coach Brad Childress. Now, remember last year, they started the year with Brad Johnson, a quarterback, and then went to the Bollinger got starts, and then they went to a youngster who they traded up a year ago to get the second round, Tavares Jackson, who Brad Childress says, look, I mean, the book, a lot of people would say, really, you're going to go with him? He would feel comfortable enough. Let's see what he has. He liked him a lot last year when he was backing up Brad Johnson. You say, well, wait a minute now. The Vikings had a season that went backwards, 6-10. I will say this about the Vikings. For a team that was 6-10, to have 2 parts of your team, the left side of the offensive line, from Burke over to Hutchinson, McKinney out there at the left side, that is unbelievably strong. To have #1 ranked rush defense in football. In other words, you have 2 things to hang your hat on. A running back with the left side of the offensive line, wouldn't that make sense? It would make sense to me. We'll come back. The Vikings are on the clock. They've got some time left. The NFL Draft, Minnesota style. Brady Quinn, Adrian Peterson, is this their time?
Yeah, this head ball coach. Hey, I told you he could really go.
TJ Hoshamazode. Yes, lock it up.
Who? What?
TJ, how's vanilla? All right. TJ, who's your mama?
NFL.com Fantasy Rule 17. Know how to pronounce your draft picks.
You mean TJ Houshmandzadeh from the Bengals?
Put him on the board. Houshmazoli. Got it. Championship.
Go to NFL.com/fantasy for early bird specials sign-up offer. And now, life without Roadrunner.
Oh! Dude, what's the deal?
You just got owned.
Thanks to you.
It's not me, Chief. It's your DSL. You want an online advantage? You need Roadrunner High Speed Online.
How can I compete without Roadrunner?
One word for you. Not gonna happen. BAM! Again!
Call 643-2337 to get a 30-day free trial of Hawaii's fastest internet service. Time Warner Cable, the power of you.
9 enter the battlefield to protect their treasure, the diamond. 1 stands up to them all to bring it all home. It has all come down to this. Who will come out victorious in high school baseball? Join us for our live coverage of the OIA Baseball Playoffs. The quest for glory begins this Wednesday night at 6:30. OIA Baseball on OC16. Brought to you by Zippy's, Pizza Hut, and the Tony Group Autoplex.
Welcome back to the 2007 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
We've done this dance before, have we not?
First round selection.
Clock is winding down on the Vikings. What's going on here?
You gotta like 7 players. There's 7 players in all of America that you can pick.
You can fire a switch, and Leftwich is your guy. You get it in now.
Right, well, because you remember, pass just means 5, 10, 15 seconds. Doesn't matter.
The card is in, but whose card? Whose card? The suspense is killing us.
With the 8th selection in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Byron Leftwich, quarterback from
Minnesota can run up at any time with their pick, but Carolina's going to beat them to the clock.
The Carolina Panthers select Jordan Gross, offensive tackle from Utah.
Well, here comes Baltimore with speed, Carl Lewis-like.
Maybe Minnesota beat Baltimore, though.
Let's see.
With the 9th selection in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Kevin Williams, defensive tackle from Oklahoma State.
My God, this is like a toll booth in New York at rush hour.
Selection in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Terrell Suggs, defensive end from Arizona State.
I never say anything like this. This is great. I mean, that was an Under Armour flashback, and it was. I mean, here was Dennis Green, just out of Minnesota, sitting there on the set with us. I've never seen people move so fast. We've been at 25 plus drafts. Never seen people move so fast with the cards. I mean, the next 5 teams were lined up just in case that Minnesota continued to miss. But the guy they got, Kevin Williams, ended up being a hell of a player, and of course, and a Pro Bowl nose. So Quinn, Peterson. Are they still debating? I got to think running back.
They like Jackson, the quarterback, the young quarterback. Here's the thing about the Vikings is they have no home run threats. They're not getting it out of their wide receivers. Even though they have Chester Taylor, a very solid running back, the one thing that Adrian Peterson is different than Chester Taylor or from any back in this draft is, for the most part, is that if he gets to the second level, gets past that line of scrimmage, he can take it to the house. That's an element they are missing, sorely from that offense.
Indoors, he's even faster. They're indoors for their home games. Let's see. The pick is in.
With the 7th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Adrian Peterson, running back, Oklahoma.
Young man in 04 as a freshman had 1,900 yards rushing, Oklahoma, and there's the Minnesota Vikings draft party. They just got themselves a big-time bat. If he stays healthy, Mel, and guys, sky could be the limit. Again, an indoor team. Detroit's indoors. So, you know, at least you're playing 9 games a year inside.
Oklahoma's outdoors.
That's all right, but fast gets faster inside. You know that.
The word that you hear about with Adrian Peterson, you've seen it his entire career, explosive. Just a guy, you know, you talk about jet power, exhilaration. I think he has that big frame at 6'1½", 220 pounds, guys, but he absorbs a lot of punishment. We talked about the durability concern, the broken collarbone midway through this past year, ankle injury back in 2005. Will he, in fact, have to tweak that running style? Obviously, at Minnesota, Mort, he has some help. You have Chester Taylor, a very solid back, picked him up from Baltimore, so you have a 1-2 punch there with the Vikings.
Keyshawn and I were just talking about this off camera, which is, listen, you've got to have 2 backs, don't you, Keyshawn? At least it's not a bad idea.
What team doesn't have 2 running backs? We have 2. The Dallas Cowboys have 2. And with this guy, he's going to help Chester Taylor and those receivers. They can get a receiver in the later round because this is a deep draft for wide receivers, and it'll help the quarterback out. And like Boom said, on turf, I'm scared of this guy.
With an offensive line, look, they got Steve Hutchinson last year. Brad Childress, their head coach, did. The left guard. They got Hutchinson, the free agent from Seattle, because he wanted to bring a lunch pail mentality. He wanted to be a blue-collar team in many ways. And you get 2 running backs like Chester Taylor, now a home run hitter with Adrian Peterson, with that type of mentality. Yes, he's building towards something.
And he's running the West Coast offense, and this kid can catch the football. He didn't catch a lot in Oklahoma, but he can catch the football as well. If you're going to pick in the top 10 of the draft, in my mind, that pick needs to get you out of the top 10 next year. That pick today, Adrian Peterson, gets the Minnesota Vikings out of the top 10 next year immediately.
And plus, not only that, his character is extremely well. And you know the recent problems that Minnesota's had in that city, this guy's a plus pick.
You're right about that. I think when you look at it, they went running back over quarterback. They have Tavares Jackson, a young quarterback. They have Chester Taylor, but you do need 2 running backs in this league. And for Adrian Peterson, who has had those durability issues, now work him in unison with Chester Taylor. Won't have as many carries, won't have to absorb as much punishment. Look at that size. He's up around 220 is his playing weight. Still runs a 4.39 40. Great athletic ability. As I said, 8% body fat. You watch him here. The speed to the outside, and he can hit the home run from any point on the field. Some very fast defensive backs could not catch him from behind. After contact, a tough, aggressive runner, sometimes too aggressive and too tough for his own good. You watch him here after contact. How many yards does he pick up? You watch him there. You're talking about a guy, Eric Dickerson-like, with the way we watch him on this highlight reel. Hands, as you talked about, coming out of that backfield, not utilized heavily, but certainly can catch the football. Here on the swing pass, takes it again to the outside and shows that speed down the sideline. That explosiveness is what separates him for a big back, 6'1½", 220. That is rare speed, rare explosiveness, and the versatility. He'll block and he'll catch. And I think the key factor here is going to Minnesota on that turf and with a back like Chester Taylor who will help him out. It's a guy carried the ball 330 times as a freshman. If he's going to be your feature back and take all those hits and not tweak his style, how long would he hold up in the NFL?
One of the scouts that I talked to this past couple of weeks described it, and I wrote it down in capitals here on my sheet. Violent runner, a violent runner. And you can see how fast a runner he is. So you've been talking about Chester Taylor. So there you go with the rushing yards. And so now part of the equation with a quarterback whose learning curve has got to be obviously very high. So Minnesota gets what they hope is home run on the ground. Atlanta's next. Miami after that. Will Matt Leinart to Arizona be mimicked by Brady Quinn to Miami? It's almost the exact scenario that we'd seen a year ago, because you would doubt, unless somebody traded to Atlanta, that Brady Quinn would be going in the 8-hole, even though Atlanta just traded their backup at shop. So there's the Viking cap on Adrian Peterson. Now let's go up to the guys at NFL Live, headed by our man Trey Wingo. Trey, counter Trey Wingo.
All right, Boomer, thanks very much. Here with Michael Smith, as we said, as you said, Atlanta is on the clock at number 8. The story of the draft right now is what Brady Quinn is waiting for and where he's going to go. At this point, Michael, do you think anybody is going to be trading up ahead of Miami, who has quarterback issues they've been trying to solve? There's still the Trent Green trade out there. will anybody trade up ahead of Miami to get Brady Quinn?
I don't believe so, Trey. I think at this point, Atlanta would like to get out of this spot. Their top priorities were Adrian Peterson and Levi Brown. They're both off the board at this point. If they're stuck at this spot, if they can't get value for the 8th pick, look for them to take Jamal Anderson, the defensive end out of Arkansas, over Amobi Okoye, who's more of a nose tackle than a 3 technique. So the defensive end out of Arkansas, Jamal Anderson, could help them. I think Brady Quinn's got to wait a little while longer. He'll probably sit there at number 9. He'll be there for the taking for the Miami Dolphins.
All right, the Miami Dolphins, again, would love to get a quarterback situation straightened out. They thought they had it a year ago when they got Dominic Culpepper. The knee continues to be a problem. There have been talks of trades with Trent Green. As for what Miami may do, let us now check in on Rachel Nichols. Rachel, what do you have about what Miami may be doing?
Well, Trey, with every second that ticks by here, Miami is closer to getting their hands on Brady Quinn. Assuming there's no trade, Atlanta doesn't do anything we don't expect them to do, they will be able to make the pick that they've been wanting to make. And you have to give GM Randy Mueller credit. A lot of people thought he would have to trade up to get his hands on Quinn. And this whole time he said, look, we want to see what happens here. We don't think we're going to have to go anywhere. And sure enough, here comes the guy that they've liked for a long time. Remember, their quarterback's coach is someone who's worked with Quinn in the past. That's a plus. And in addition, there's just a lot of like on both sides here. Cam Cameron really likes Brady Quinn. Quinn likes Cameron. When Cameron came up to South Bend, they threw it around in cold weather to see how he would do in cold weather cities. When he came down to Florida, they thought about how his mental preparation would be. The Dolphins really gave him a hard time about some things in his personal life and just some things to see how he would react to it. He was calm, he was cool, he was collected. They loved him coming out of that interview, and as these seconds tick by, they're looking forward. They could get their hands on Brady Quinn.
All right, Rachel, thank you very much. And more, this would, I mean, except for Brady Quinn not going to Cleveland and to Joe Thomas instead, it's kind of going by the book, especially if no Quinn at 3, Quinn perhaps to 9.
And we have Atlanta still on the clock right now.
We do.
We'll talk about Brady Quinn. But listen, it's interesting. Brady Quinn, and what Rachel was referring to about the quarterback coach at Notre Dame, his name was Terry Shea. And now he was at Notre Dame as the quarterback coach. He's now in Miami with the Dolphins as their quarterback coach. And Cam Cameron went to work out Brady Quinn recently. In fact, he wanted him to throw outside, but it was iced over in the field. The reason he wanted him to throw outside is because he knew he grew up in Ohio. He knew he played at Notre Dame, but he also knows the Miami Dolphins play, the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, the New York Jets. And when you play up there in November and December, you want a guy who's acclimated to that type of climate. So if Brady Quinn gets to the Dolphins, it's just going to feel like a perfect match. And I know this, but talking to Brady yesterday, he was not going to be disappointed at all if he fell to the Dolphins at number 9. We'll see.
Correct. He said that. We all had a chance to meet with some of the top prospects, and, you know, if it goes that way, they're all going to be well compensated. I mean, the difference between 3 and 9, yes, in the bank account there is a difference, but not really, if you know what I mean. Not really. Let's get our thoughts from the Monday Night Football guy.
Yeah, Chris, I'm thinking about last year's draft, Tony and Jaws, when you watch Matt Leinart, and because of the profile of USC in that case, Notre Dame in this case, you watch the guy slide, and you feel really bad for the individual and say, he's the slider of this draft. But then you look at the situation. David Carr, with the number 1 overall pick, ends up in a situation that became untenable for him and may have ruined his career. The Miami fit may be a good fit for Quinn if that happens in 2 picks, much like Leinart was a good fit for Arizona, John.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, it's about expectations. Sometimes a player doesn't meet those expectations and their stock falls a little bit. As a quarterback, it's about the team. You want to surround yourself with a quality football team and outstanding coaches. If Brady Quinn does go to Miami, he will get outstanding coaching. Terry Shea, Cam Cameron, they understand the quarterback position. They will coach Brady Quinn hard, and that's the key. Coaching at the NFL level is not as good as we are led to believe at times. I think if you go to a place like Miami with Shea and Cameron, Brady Quinn, it could be a good situation for him.
I hope he goes somewhere pretty soon because he was very well dressed when it started. Now you saw a couple of picks ago, his collar came out, and if he's not drafted by 15, he'll be naked basically. He'll take off all his clothes and look like John Travolta at some point dancing as his shirt comes off.
Brady, hang out any way you like there, back there, buddy. It's uncomfortable in so many ways, yet at the same time, it's a long hour and a half, but it may end up being the best hour and a half. Because instead of ending up someplace where you're going to get your head beat in, on a 2-14 or a 3-13 team. You might go to a team, as you said, with a good chance to
He can
grow.
play, Mike.
Yes.
He can play.
You believe he's a 10-year quarterback. Boomer, back to you.
All right, Mike, thank you. By the way, we should mention the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock. The first pick of the Bobby Petrino era. What an offense he had as a head coach at Louisville. And now Willie, I don't know, could he pick one of his own guys?
You're talking about Amobe Okoye, the Louisville defensive tackle. He certainly can, and it's already been mentioned that Arkansas defensive end Jamal Anderson is a possibility. But let's just clear up one thing. There were reports and speculation that Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, had ordered Rich McKay, the general manager, to go get Calvin Johnson no matter what it cost. Arthur Blank told me that that never happened, and if it had, if somebody had even suggested it, he would have disagreed with it.
Well, Atlanta is picking. They moved up a couple of slots because they traded Matt Stump to Schaub, their backup quarterback, out of Houston. This is Houston's spot. Now it's Atlanta's. Here's the pick. The commissioner, Roger Goodell, with the first pick of a new era in Atlanta.
With the 8th pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Jamal Anderson, defensive end, Arkansas.
Well, that was the other name that you mentioned, Mort. So Bobby Petrino going for defense. Jamal Anderson, Arkansas. Mel, and Mort, you've had your eye on him a long time. Mel, how's he grade out?
Interesting when you look at it, Boom, the guys that they were looking at, LaRon Landry off the board, Levi Brown off the board, not trading up for Calvin Johnson, defensive end, they need wide because Patrick Kearney moved on to Seattle in free agency, defensive tackle, not as much of a need. So Bobby Petrino goes away from Amobi Okoye, goes for need and takes Jamal Anderson. Talk about a guy 6'5.5", 285 pounds. You talk about pass rush ability. This past year, he went from 4 sacks as a sophomore to 13.5 this past season. Former basketball player in high school, great on the hardwood, wide receiver at the prep level. What he needs to show is a mean streak. We talk about a guy still a little inexperienced on the defensive side of the ball, but his recognition, Turner will talk about noticing and knowing what is going on the football field in front of you, not being influenced out of plays. He showed that this year. Here we're talking about against Wisconsin, getting after the quarterback, although Joe Thomas did a good job against him the majority of that football game. But I think getting a mean streak, solid against the run, 13.5 sacks, 4 sacks the year prior. Is he a one-year wonder? Is he just a developing guy who's going to keep getting better and better? Ran a 4.83 at his workout, but at 6'5.5", 285, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think what you have to find out now, once he's in the league and he's coached up, can he build on that one great year at Arkansas?
Well, here's the thing about what an athlete he was, Mort. I mean, and you saw him at Arkansas quite a bit. He broke Keith Jackson's high school receiving records at Little Rock. That's right, the tight end of the Green Bay Packers. Let me tell you about Keith Jackson. He was a receiver in high school. So, you know, as an athlete, he's different.
Yeah, it is. You know, and his fellow defensive lineman for that Arkansas football team was Keith Jackson Jr., and they're together in Little Rock today. And Jamal Anderson was a guy, he was a receiver coming out of high school who wasn't highly recruited. In fact, I remember seeing him as an incoming freshman and saying, you know what, he might be a Pro Bowl tight end by the time he grows into his body. That's what type of athlete he is. And I know the Falcons and other teams look at him. You say, it's hard to find a base defensive end. And they love his upside. Yes, this guy has his upside. In other words, he's got great character with the talent. Chances are in 2 or 3 or 4 years, you end up with a Pro Bowl defensive end.
And nothing more important in a dome with that noise, as from a quarterback's perspective, playing in Atlanta all those years with the noise, that you get a defensive end that can come upfield and threaten the quarterback and put offensive tackles. They do not sleep the night before they play in Atlanta or New Orleans or any other dome. And that's why I think this is a great pick for the Atlanta Falcons.
Real quick. Michael Vick now is with his 3rd head coach. All right, began Dan Reeves and had Jim Moore, and now is Bobby Petrino. Good thing? Will it cause him to go half a step back?
It's a horrible thing to be changing coaches all the time. That's not going to work. This needs to get stability at this point. Michael needs stability for a long term. He's got an offense now. If he learns it and studies, for him, it's aptitude. Will I spend the time to go to the extra level, the extra time in the meeting rooms? Then I think it's really important that he gets that job done soon, or else they might start fading on him.
The Miami Dolphins are on the clock. Is this the time for the mighty Quinn?
Yeah, this head ball coach, he ran a what? Hey, I told you he could really go. Yeah, click clack.
Two smacks and a lift off.
Click clack.
Hey, Rooks. I didn't get picked first in the draft. Didn't start my first 3 games. Didn't sit still. Didn't want to play another position. And definitely didn't want to lose my first NFL game back home in Houston. But I did do one thing no one expected. I did get Rookie of the Year. Welcome to Madden NFL 08. Product not yet rated. EA Sports is in the game.